Hello, I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the first episode of Taskmaster Series 16 because I genuinely think this is a perfect episode, especially for a first episode, but I think it is a perfect episode. So obviously we've got 5 new contestants, and as if you don't know, but they are Julian, Clary, Lucy, Beaumont, Sam Campbell, Sue Perkins and Susan Wokoma. I only really knew 2 contestants, and that was Lucy and Sue, and I was very, very excited for them. Julian and Susan I knew of, but didn't really know too much about, and Sam Campbell I hadn't heard about at all, but all of them have just been incredibly funny and just took to the show like straight away. Like the chemistry there is instant, the studio environment and the banter between them all is already there, which is fantastic. I love to see it in a first episode. As I said in the intro, I genuinely think this episode is perfect for a first episode, and I'm going to kind of delve into a little bit of why I think that. So obviously the structure of the episode is the same for every single episode, and that obviously starts with the prize task. Again, we had just kind of a basic prize task, best wooden thing. It's very classic. I think it's vague enough for a first episode, kind of introducing them to the prize tasks. But it allows them to kind of bring in whatever they wanted, and I think everybody did a good job. There was loads of interesting stories behind each item, which was really good for a first episode because they really got to kind of showcase a bit of their comedy style and do a few jokes and personal stories, and I thought that was a really, really strong start to the episode. The prize task is normally quite weak in terms of the actual prizes, but I thought everybody here did a really good job, and I think just showcases each individual's kind of attempt at the task. Like Julian bringing in something that was like pretty good, and reliable. Lucy bringing in something kind of simple but having this weird backstory to it. Sam bringing in a really weird looking Pinocchio. Sue bringing in generally something kind of interesting that's kind of got this really cool story, but like funny, again, weird story behind it. And then Susan bringing in the wind chimes, which was quite funny because it wasn't really like what she was asked to bring in, because it wasn't like all wooden, which, judging by how she was in the actual tasks, this might be an indicator of the fact that she might not really read the tasks too much. So I thought this prize task was a perfect one to start off with. The discussions that they had was really great, so that was a brilliant way to start the episode. You really get a feel for each contestant. We then went into the can task. So there was a couple of interesting things that they did here. So they immediately threw in this element of there being a secret task, which I love. They haven't done that before, so I love this idea that there may be a secret task that somebody's going to find. That is really a cool thing to give the audience, because then we're looking for something that might be a secret task. Like maybe if we see something in the background that like maybe looks like a task, like that kind of gives us something to look for throughout the whole series. So I think that's really smart. And it's also just posing this question that these contestants might be looking out for something. And so I really enjoyed that, and I cannot wait to see what that is, because it kind of suggests to me that it might be like an individual task, because only one person might find it, and I always love an individual task. And I know New Zealand did a secret task thing in one of their episodes in season 3, I think, and that was fantastic. Like, it was so good. So that I'm very, very excited for. The task itself was very strong for a first task. So it introduces this element of it being a bit tricky, because the actual task is simple: go into the lab and build the highest stack of cans blindfolded. That's quite a simple task, but then there's the added element of the blindfold being in the can, which didn't really trick anybody, but it could have done, and then having to make their way from the room blindfolded to the lab. And then, of course, there is a reveal that the cans were all stacked up and that it was like knocked over, and yeah, just hilarious task. And I think for new viewers as well, who perhaps have never seen the show before, this is their first time watching it, it's a really fun task to start off with, to see everybody fumbling about with the cans, knocking it over, essentially sabotaging themselves without knowing. So that was really, really good. And I think it was a really strong way of starting the series. It really embodies the spirit of Taskmaster, a deceptively simple task that's kind of been made to embarrass the comedians and set them up for failure and set them up to lose points. And I just think it was a really, really strong task, very, very funny to start off with. I loved that Alex could not hold his laughter in, and yeah, he seems to be corpsing a lot more throughout the last few seasons, which I'm actually really enjoying. I think it's great seeing him not able to contain himself. I just love it. And also there were some genuinely like impressive moments from like Sam obviously being able to like noticing the tower and managing to put one at the very top. Like I genuinely did not think he was going to be able to do that, so that was really impressive. And then like they said, going into the fetal position to try not to knock it over. So yeah, as I said, fantastic first task. Just this element of it being just like tricking them and yeah, like I said, setting them up to kind of fail and embarrass themselves, which I love. Also, I forgot to say when I was filming this, but to me this definitely feels like it was the first task that they filmed for each contestant. Just the way that Alex kind of introduced the room and himself, and everyone seemed a bit like cautious going into it. But it might not be, but it definitely gives that vibe to me, like that impression. So if that is the case, that is really cool that they've put the first ever task that they filmed as the first task of the show. But yeah, it might not be, but I just thought it was pretty interesting if it is. The next task was a team task and also a double task. So the two things there that I think are quite strong. So bringing in the team tasks quite early, I quite enjoyed. I think because we've got such a fantastic lineup, showing the comedians interacting with each other from the first episode, like doing the tasks, I thought was quite a good idea. So you've got the two Sues, which I'm so glad that they were put on the same team together. That's amazing. Their interactions was really sweet, like they're very excited to meet each other, and then the team of three just being so awkward, and I just thought it set up the series quite well. Like we're gonna have very awkward moments there, especially like Sam and Lucy. They're quite similar in certain ways, like they are just very like, I don't know how their minds work, but I just thought their interaction was just hilarious, and I think having that in the first episode is just very funny. And also we've kind of got two very different approaches to the task here, like from the start. So we had the team of two doing the actually doing the task like as it was intended, tying themselves up, which would then set us up for the second part of the task. That was a really good reveal. I didn't really see it coming, but I wasn't surprised. But I thought it was really good. Again, especially if you're somebody watching this for the first time, I think it sets it up really, really well. Again, if you're somebody watching this for the first time, you wouldn't have expected there to be a second part to that task. So I think it's just done really, really well. I think the structure of this task was, like the editing was done really well as well, to show the team of two doing it properly with then the reveal that they had in fact screwed themselves over, to then showing the team of three coming up with this crazy idea to cut off their hair, which is just, within 10 minutes of meeting each other, they're cutting each other's hair off. Just fantastic. I loved it. And then being able to actually complete the second part of the task very, very well. And then we see the team of two really struggle to complete the rest of the task. So the structure of that task in of itself was very, very good. And I think the good thing about these trick double tasks is that it shows that, like I said, kind of with the first one, that the comedians are going to be set up, like not to trust the process, to kind of think outside the box and don't go for like the obvious thing to do, which is, yeah, so it's really, really good. I loved this task. It's very, very funny. And I cannot wait to see what other things that the team of three do specifically. I love the team of two as well, but the team of three is just going to be so crazy. And I cannot wait for that. The next task was the duck task, which is quite a physical task. It's also a location task, as I said. So we've got like the first team tasks, the first double task, like trick second part task, and the first location task all in the first episode. And I feel like this task in particular really shows like the scale of the tasks, like how big and the space that they work with, and also kind of like the budget that they work with, even though this one in particular is probably not that big budget. But just shows the scale of the tasks and the just wide variety of stuff that they're going to be getting up to in this show. This task also introduces disqualifications and time penalties, so kind of showing the harshness of the Taskmaster's ruling about, like, you know, people are going to get disqualified, and again, something simple that's kind of made a lot more difficult with these time penalties. And again, pushing that think outside the box, don't just go for your first thought, like how can you avoid these time penalties, don't just like kind of wing it essentially, which is what Lucy and Sam did. Like Sue did a great job thinking outside the box by moving the markers, taking away the flamingos and stuff like that to limit the possibility of there being a time penalty. So, good thinking outside the box. I love it. Unfortunately, didn't do too well for her. I mean, she ended up coming second, I want to say, or maybe third, because she didn't do it very fast. Whereas someone like Susan did it incredibly fast and didn't get any penalties, I was so afraid that she was going to get disqualified when Alex was like, we've got to watch it back a few times. And I was very happy that she didn't get disqualified because I thought she did such a fantastic job. The studio task, again, very typical kind of studio task, a knockout round kind of thing with, again, very simple concept, heavier or lighter than the last item. It makes a lot of sense. It's kind of something that you can kind of play along with at home, which I quite like about the studio tasks. It's you can kind of try and guess as you go along, so I enjoy that. But then there is this added thing of having these extra little tricks, like the chain inside the boot, which I genuinely did not see coming. It looks like Greg didn't even see it coming either, so that was really good. So the sneaky items, again, introducing this thing that you cannot trust the tasks. There's always going to be tricks. There's always going to be things to look out for. So yeah, that all of it I loved. And I know it wasn't part of the actual task, it wasn't intended to be, but a few things that Sam did in this task, the whole "Are you a child of divorce?" was hilarious. It caught me so off guard. And also him saying it's going to be equal, and then obviously there being kind of like a little issue with the scales and it genuinely looking equal for a bit. That was perfect. You couldn't script that stuff. It was so good. So yeah, that's just kind of what I mean by the structure was perfect. And thinking especially from a long-time viewer, it was a very fantastic episode as well. It had everything in Taskmaster that you like. But if you're watching for the first time, you've got the whole Taskmaster experience in one episode, and there wasn't a dull moment, which isn't is mainly due to the comedians as well. But there was never a dull moment. It was always high after high after high. It was so good. I genuinely think this is probably one of their strongest episodes, definitely one of their strongest first episodes. And I know I kind of say this every time a new series starts, but I genuinely think this could be the best season we've had. It's so good. In terms of the actual contestants, all of them are amazing. As I said, I only really knew two, but not even before the episode started, because I loved their interviews as well. But from the moment that they started talking, I loved them all. It was just so strong. But yeah, I also did want to talk about the interviews, because I really enjoyed that they've changed up how they're doing them, that they're being released. So it's one a day for 5 days before the series airs now, which I think is such a better way of doing it than the way they were doing it before, which was one a week. So you get to episode 5 and you're only getting the last contestant's interview. So this, I think, is a much better way of doing it, because you get introduced to the comedians in Taskmaster before the series starts. So, and also, you don't have to watch them if you want to go in completely blind. I personally did really enjoy watching them, because it gave me a little bit of what to expect from each contestant, which I really appreciated. I was very excited for it anyway, so it just gave me that little bit of Taskmaster to keep me going before the series aired. So that, I thought, was a really good decision. I also loved that the interviews were just chaotic as well. Lucy really made me excited when she described her attempts at the tasks as being feral. That made me very excited, and I completely understand what she means already. So I'm very excited for that, to see what else she does. The discussion about her arms being her legs being like arms was just hilarious. I love Lucy Beaumont. She is definitely the comedian I was most excited for, and she's held up. She's exceeded my expectations of how funny she is. I loved in the interviews the talking in third person, how genuinely difficult some of them found it. So I love that was funny. And I thought the painting of the pictures was quite good, because again, it gave us something else as well. It wasn't just sitting and doing an interview, you also got a cool little funny painting from it as well. They're also doing something different this series with the fact that they're airing the full episodes on YouTube the day after they air in the UK. So that is really, really good. I think that's such a good idea. So this is definitely for North America, and they did say other countries as well, but they didn't quite clarify exactly which countries are in it, are able to go onto it or not. And I did notice, because they put the link up on YouTube, that it's actually a YouTube premiere, so people will be able to kind of chat in the comments as the episode airs, so a live chat, which I think is really good. Hopefully they could kind of introduce maybe some of the other contestants might go and watch the episode live with them, and you could potentially introduce the idea of being able to chat as you go along. So that I thought was really good. like the show has a really strong community of fans anyway. Like people do that kind of live chatting and reacting to episodes on Reddit. Like they do a Reddit thread where people chat in live time with it, which is really cool. But yeah, as I said, it's got a very strong community, and I think this is just going that extra step further to like create like an official community like on the Taskmaster page, which I think is really a good idea. And also because we've got, so this has been given to international viewers to be able to watch our series live, hopefully that means that the international series could do something similar like for us as well. Obviously we've got the New Zealand Taskmaster over in the UK now, which is so good. I'm rewatching it at the moment. I'm on like halfway through series 2. It's, oh god, it's so good. But so that's really good. So I feel like we've definitely got this very cool international community of fans all loving the same show and now all watching it at the same time, which I think is really good. Like obviously it's a day later, but it's pretty much the same time. Like no more waiting for like someone to upload it online where it's not going to benefit the creators. So this is a way that it can benefit everybody. And hopefully, as I said, with this increase of international viewership and international influence, we can hopefully get all the other international versions in the UK where we can all watch them like properly. Hopefully, because we have got more international viewers and this kind of a bigger link between the international versions, we could potentially get an international crossover. I'm kind of hoping that we'll get, either we could have a contestant that's been on an international version, like say like New Zealand for example, come and actually be on a UK series, or vice versa. Like especially what I get from a lot of like the New Zealand one specifically, and particularly the latest season that they've had, is they just all seem to be having the time of their lives on Taskmaster. So I'd love to be able to, I'm sure they would take up a chance of doing it again, especially if they're wanting to kind of gain a bigger international kind of like audience for themselves, I guess. But also it'd be great to maybe bring like a contestant from each version, like an existing contestant from each version, have like an international battle. If they do like a winner, maybe like international champion of the champions international version, so you get a champion from each country that has a version to like kind of fight and compete against each other. Like there's so many cool things we could do if we were able to kind of have all the versions work together and all the creators of each versions work together. That's a very big tangent to what I actually was talking about, which was just series 16. But I think it's just kind of showing that we're kind of developing this new era of Taskmaster where there could potentially be a lot more international collaboration, which I really, really hope, because that would be so cool. But yeah, as I said, it's just a fantastic start to the series. Every part of it has been great. I'm loving the style of the house as well. I haven't even talked about that. I love the theme that they've got going on. It's really, really cool. I think it's quite different from every other one that we've had before. And I love the portrait. It's very cool. I'm just so excited for next Thursday already. Like, I cannot wait. Everybody who has seen